Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Doug Dagnabbit, aka Modern Warzone, as most of you know me, and we actually got the first campaign gameplay footage of Modern Warfare 2 yesterday. And today I'm going to go through that video and break down a bunch of things that I think a lot of people didn't notice. I don't know exactly how many it's going to be, but there was a lot of details in there that people may not have noticed on their first watch. I was flown out to LA to check out this as well as 3 other campaign missions ahead of time. And while we were there, there was a lot of things that we didn't notice either because we didn't have the ability to watch it on YouTube in 1440p or 4K and play it back like I'm about to do. So I'm gonna go through this video real quick. Please leave a like on today's video. Help this get recommended in the YouTube algorithm. I'm trying to get back into YouTube big time going into Modern Warfare 2. It's been a huge time for me, and I truly appreciate all the support that I got on Twitter whenever I shared that I was invited out to LA by Call of Duty and got to play the game early. So I'm so excited to share with you guys all the news coming from that, but let's just get straight into the video. So I'm just going to pause it at random increments at spots that are interesting. So first note, this is Operation Darkwater on the U.S. Atlantic coastline on the 22nd of October 2022, 1900 hours, so 7 p.m.
Eyes in the rig!
Alright, that's our target! Shadows 1 and 2! Push to your hook points! Let's invite ourselves in!
All stations, ship is visual.
Copy! Prep for assault, stay on comm! We board, clear, disarm that missile!
I do believe that
Anything.
that is Vargas, this is Soap, and that is Commander Philip Graves, the owner and operator of Shadow Company. So in Modern Warfare 2, Shadow Company was formed by General Shepard as his own like private military force or whatever they were doing in that game. And you didn't work with them. They were directly trying to capture you at the end of the game before you end up killing Shepard as Soap. So it's kind of weird to see us playing alongside them here.
This could be a trap.
Actual, we're set.
Copy, get to work.
And something that's about to happen right here, as you just noticed, they just shot grappling hooks up. And I'm not saying that this will be a multiplayer or anything, because this has been done before in Call of Duty campaigns. But it's a very interesting thought. I've seen people on Twitter saying, what if it can only go vertical? I think that'd be a good way to combat campers, but I have no idea if this will be a multiplayer or not. Just something to take a look at.
Good hook. Up and at him.
All shadows.
Nothing really big to point out there.
I want full containment. You've got 3 AQ.
This is the Fennec. The same Fennec that we have in Modern Warfare 19 and Warzone that we didn't get until later on in the game. But yeah, there's your first returning gun that we've seen. I mean, in this footage.
Internal. 2-1, making entry.
Something I wanted to point out here that you're going to notice multiple times throughout the trailer is that there are bodies have weight to them now, and they make sounds depending on how hardly they fall or how high of a height they fall from. But right here, if you pay attention, these guys that get dropped in there, you can hear their bodies hitting as they fall. And they all make different sounds.
Clear through.
This is our first example of a door. Can't talk about multiplayer yet, but this is a door in the campaign. Same mechanics as before. You could open bash it or you could sprint through it. And I just want to point out for a second, and I'm not going to try to harp on it throughout this, but the audio design is absolutely phenomenal. The difference between how a gun sounds indoors in super close quarters versus how it sounds in indoors in bigger quarters versus how it sounds outside is huge. Also, you can hear right here that the rain, you can barely hear the rain or the water from outside because you're inside of a building right now with multiple things, you know, obfuscating that sound. And another thing that Maverick GG pointed out right here is, I'm going to try to get this frame by frame, but your muzzle actually creates its own light from the muzzle flash, as well as the enemy's muzzle. And they don't just, it's not just like a big blinding light. They also cast shadows. So this is our first example. Got to go through this frame by frame. That is the enemy firing at you. That is their muzzle flash. As you can see, you have not fired your weapon yet. The flash dims after he stops shooting. And boom, you shoot. And look at how illuminated his face is compared to his own muzzle flash, because the light is casting from the end of the gun. I know that's not a big deal to most people, but I thought it was kind of cool. And another example of how the bodies have their own sound effects based on like the way they're standing and the way they fall. I mean, he made the exact sound of hitting that grate. And here's where you can hear the difference between rain sounds inside and outside.
Shadow 1 moving to the southeast stairwell. Squatters, right side. Two above.
How heavy that guy sounded is because he fell that far and he weighed as much. I'm not sure what they're going to do with this system, but man, I hope it's not just for this gameplay, because it's great. I mean, this stuck out to me when we watched it in the studio. It's just splat. You can see the rain hitting your camera POV. You can see rain on your gun, water droplets forming.
Balcony door undone.
As you can see up here, I do believe that's Commander Philip Graves, and he appears to be using a P90. I'm not a gun expert, so I don't want to call out all the guns you see. I'm sure there will be other YouTubers or websites or whatever outlets that'll cover that stuff.
Ghost, we're moving to the main deck. What's your status?
Boarding the ship with Shadow 3 now.
Roger that.
All right, so this is like our first example of what a breaching situation will look like. This guy on the right is going to walk in. He's going to get absolutely shit on. You hear, even right here, you can hear the sound design. Listen to how the gun sounds before you're within, like, you know how you can't hear through a wall? Well, when your ear walks by the door, the gun sound a lot different. See how it sounds deeper and more bassy behind the door, and then when you're past it, it's a lot more penetrating. And then listen to this flashbang. My God. As we said earlier, the Phoenix sounds way different indoors than it did right there. We get our first example. You can see Molotovs on the table. Molotovs are confirmed.
Move fast. All shadows, force out. I want eyes on that container now.
2 copies, moving.
One thing I also wanted to point out throughout this, especially coming up on the next part, is that these guns, I can't tell if it's the player or just for gameplay purposes to show off like an E3 demo, but the guns seem to have a lot more recoil, in my opinion. At least for a Finnick. I mean, this thing goes straight up after 3 or 4 bullets.
We gotta roll.
Shadow 1, Ghost. Visual on flares coming from the ring.
This is our first example of the 3 times VLK that we're all familiar with from Modern Warfare and Warzone.
What's your status, over?
Ghost, they're signaling the ship. They're gonna launch that missile.
It's first stage. There's still time. All shadows. Missile is on the helipad. 2-1, we're moving to secure. Cover us.
Mounting is back. One thing I do want to point out right here, and this doesn't mean it's not there, is that this player never slides horizontally like we got in Vanguard and now is in Warzone. They stay fixed on that one point they mounted on. And from what I can tell, it doesn't seem to reduce the recoil nearly as much as it currently does. And we'll see another example of that with the Finnick later.
Copies off.
Like, you see what I'm saying? There's still a lot of visual recoil with the gun. Another thing that I thought was worth pointing out is that a lot of times in this trailer, you're going to see that the red dot, whatever your optic is, depending on how you're moving, walking, the boat swaying later on, it's not centered. And that can happen right now if you have your sensitivity up high enough in Call of Duty. If you like try to do a 360 or something, your red dot will lag behind a little bit. But these aren't quick movements this player is doing, and it's still lagging behind. I thought that that was like a touch of added realism that they're trying to do while keeping the same formula. But I mean, I could be wrong. There's our first example of a slide. So we now know that dolphin diving is going to be there. If you did not know that yet, it's mentioned in my article. We do see a slide right here. And it's not a slide cancel. I saw people on Twitter saying this is a slide cancel. No, he just completes the slide. And another thing to note is kind of check out the crosshair as he slides. How it doesn't come up until the end of the slide. Also, I didn't see anybody talking about the soundtrack, but the background music for this is phenomenal so far. And here's an example of the difference of the flashbang sound in a longer corridor hallway with windows to where the sound can escape from, versus in that room that we saw earlier that's all contained. All that audio would have had to been blaring through that one doorway. Listen to the difference. I mean, that's a majorly different sounding sound.
Clear.
That's probably the most blood that we get to see from this. As we can see, this was some feedback that I shared within the studio. I don't know if I'm wrong for this, but I don't like how it looks when you get the Molotov added and M84 flash added on the right. It could just be because the gameplay that we saw was mainly without a HUD, to make it seem more realistic. I guess it's better for marketing type stuff. But to see that pop up kind of took me out of the immersion. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought about that. And another example of the audio occlusion, as he's running through the hallway, you can hear his sounds bouncing off the walls, and then when he comes out here, he sounds way different.
Roger that. Confirm when the objective is neutralized.
I see a lot of people speculating about whether or not that's General Shepard over the radio comms talking to Shadow Company. I cannot confirm or deny. You know, it sounds similar to me. I would love for it to be, but I do not know 100% yet.
Open.
Where are the controls?
On that damn ship.
Actual, we got a problem. Missile is armed. Somewhere on the ship.
You have your orders, son. Stop that launch.
That sounded a lot like Shepard to me, so I get why people are saying that. I love the way the boat sounds right here.
Slow down. Ghost, this is 01, back in the water, inbound to your position.
Solid copy. We're taking effective fire. The LZ will be hot.
Roger that. Once we're on deck, we push to the bridge. Fast. Secure those controls. Stop this vessel, yep. How do we board? Take the ramp.
Take the ramp. One thing I wanted to point out that a lot of people don't know about video games, but that is a huge part of the game, is how they handle cutscenes. This is effectively a cutscene, but it never takes you out of the action. You go from one place in the ocean to another, and the entire time it just feels, it really grips you. It really puts you like you're really there, instead of taking you to a loading screen, a black screen, this, that, and the other. They fill that space with Commander Graves letting you know what's about to happen before the big gunfight.
Hold tight, Sergeant. Let's have ourselves a gunfight. Missile controls are on the bridge.
This is where there's going to be a lot of stuff to point out. Right there, they just mentioned AQ's moving in. So AQ, Al-Qatala, is who we are fighting aboard this barge. As you can see, I'm sure everybody noticed all the cover sliding around. There's moving cover elements of this part of the game. Really, really cool. Most COD OGs will recognize this barge as Wet Work from COD 4. I forget the name of the mission, but it's the first mission in the campaign. It was a multiplayer map a lot of people didn't like. But there's a lot of other stuff to point out here, so. Simtex confirmed. The sound of the Simtex is drastically different. Right there, you can also see that that gun actually has its own physics. Like, it's going to fly. If something blows up next to it, it's going to take off. The Simtex has a much higher pitched tone with the beeping, and then the sound effects of the explosions are much different, in my opinion.
Alejandro, maintain overwatch from the rig. We're forcing up. Copy that.
This was something that I wanted to point out, that I don't know if this was present in the previous games. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. But when he mantles, his crosshair kind of moves as if he's bringing the gun up, and that's where it would be, in my opinion. This is when we first see the shotgun. You see how it's lower than the middle of the screen, and then it kind of shakes to get in the middle of the screen? His iron sights are not centered a lot of the time because the boat's moving, which is very realistic in my opinion. I like that. I like anything that makes it a little bit harder to have laser beam aim in this current generation of Call of Duty.
Reloading.
They're forcing up.
Mounting returns. Side mounting, I should say, because we already saw mounting.
I'm moving.
Containers are the only cover we have.
Just don't get caught between them.
So we didn't get to see if you die or how you die, but they did mention, even in LA, that these containers could hurt you. So, and right there, I don't know if this is just extreme screen shake or what, but it looked like the crosshair moved again. Yeah, that's not the center of your screen. The center of your screen is somewhere over here, but it's directly where the barrel of the gun points. So I don't think that that's just screen shake. And also, if you haven't noticed, these shotguns have a hell of a lot of kick. Alright, this was the example that I wanted to talk about with the Fennec. As you can see, he is mounted up. I think I'm going to do a one-to-one comparison side by side of this and mounting a Fennec in Warzone or Modern Warfare currently. He mounts up. Normally, this would mean your Fennec is a laser beam if you can even slightly control recoil. Slightly. We don't know the skill level of this player, but watch this. Look at the amount of kick he has after 4 or 5 bullets. He basically shoots a circle around that guy, which leads me to believe, based on what I've seen in these campaign reveals, that mounting's not going to reduce your kick as much anymore. It might even reduce it less if you're mounted on something that's like you're side mounted versus if you have a platform that your gun is on. And I think that's a good thing because players like the ability to mount, but a lot of people complain about how laser beam accurate it is, and I kind of understand that.
Entry on the third. We have to get to that door. Check your corner.
Check your corners. That's a major callback. I know it's a normal thing for special forces to say, but they've been saying that since COD 4.
Watch the container. X-ray down.
Force right.
I mean, even right here, like, he's side mounted again, and this just is not a lot of recoil reduction.
How far are you from the bridge? This is one. We're pushing towards the entry now.
And just listen to the sound of this shotgun outside versus what it's about to sound like indoors.
This is one. We're pushing towards the entry now. Copy that.
Very cool moment right there. You also get to hear the difference in sound occlusion, as well as you get to see the water burst in from the window and the environment actually impacts an enemy and throws them away. Obviously a scripted piece, but I thought that was pretty cool. Like, imagine if that only happens if the boat's leaning a certain way and everybody has a different experience. And I don't know if it's just me. Please let me know in the comments. But every time that I've rewatched this, I just noticed that crosshair bobbing just a little bit based on where your gun is pointed.
Off the bridge entry. Secure the deck and we'll blow the door.
Visual on bridge entry.
Check it. Controls are internal. All right, stand back. Shadow 1 going explosive on bridge entry. 3, 2, 1. Execute.
And that's it. Basically, I mean, I loved it. I thought it looked great. This is all pre-alpha footage, whether you believe me or not, think I'm shilling or not. Everything that we saw, we played, we got to do was all pre-alpha, including multiplayer. So for the game to look, sound, and have gunplay like this already in pre-alpha, none of us know about game development, so let's not argue in the comments what like we do. But I think that that's an extremely good sign moving forward. To me, it looked amazing. The gameplay looked great. It's dark. It's gritty. It seems to have a big focus on nighttime missions this go around, which I'm all cool with. You know, I just want a good campaign. I know a lot of you guys probably don't care about campaign, but I care about it a lot. Very, very much so looking forward to this. I hope you guys saw some things that you may not have noticed your first time around. I know this video's gone on a lot longer than I wanted it to, but I do appreciate you guys coming by. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, drop a comment down below about more future content you'd like to see me do covering Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.